they called it, incurious. I think I'll call it like willful ignorance, right?
Yes.
This was systemic. You in many cases were recruiting guys that other schools wouldn't take, probably because those schools knew about behavioral and character concerns on these guys. And then when they got on campus, Briles oversaw it. Like as Tom said, are all those reports accurate? I don't know. Am I that crazy to think that a good majority of them are made up or false? No, I think there's a lot of bad stuff that went down at Baylor. He oversaw it. It's very different than a lot of the other kind of one-off. Not that one-offs are okay, but the systemic nature of it is really kind of what gets you here. Like to try to win, continue to play guys who were clearly committing rapes, and that there's no NCAA violation found is not a clearance of Art Briles. It is merely a reflection that NCAA guidelines and rules don't really cover this. This is more of a criminal issue or a Title IX type issue. Remember, Penn State was not eventually found guilty of NCAA violations for the stuff they had with the defensive coordinator up there, right? It doesn't mean nothing bad happened. Like we all know really bad stuff happened there. Just because the NCAA doesn't have a specific rule to cover it, that is not clearance that you did nothing wrong. I'm a big believer in second chances, but as Tom noted, you have to at least be a little bit contrite and accepting no responsibility for what went down. And just that they were winning in large part because they were letting these guys play. Like these were a lot of their important players, and they were recruiting them with the foreknowledge of it sometimes.
And transfers coming in with like allegations
State transfer
that are alive. Yeah.
I'm a believer in second chances. Regardless of whether you come out publicly. I mean, he did say in the first round of comments, he did apologize for what happened to everybody. There wasn't, it was my fault, hard line, buck stops with me. But he did acknowledge there were some things that took place. What I think is fascinating is that Art Briles became the face of rape culture on college campuses. And it was a very hot topic at the time. And so he was the poster child and all right, we have to make an example of why this can't happen. I mean, you remember the Hamilton Tiger Cats were willing to hire him a year after, and the outrage was so bad. They nope, I think we were going to reassess and we're not going to do it. And I'll be curious to see if this gets approved all the way through. But 6 years to me for, oversight and letting this happen on your watch and willful ignorance and those type of things seems okay, so let the man coach, let him go do his thing. And then just as far as him being the poster boy, Ian McCall, who you mentioned at the top of this, he's been athletic director at Liberty since 2016, just made a smooth transition. Here we go. I mean, he's the head of the entire athletic department, and he doesn't really have to face any penalty for what he did. There have been other coaches, Urban Meyer, for one, that have had a numerous, players arrested, mass murders. Now, you didn't know about Aaron Hernandez, or did you? What was going on? Not clearly the murders that took place in New England, but there was some really serious stuff that was going on in Gainesville that we never heard about. So I think if you investigated a lot of schools, hopefully you wouldn't find as bad as this, but you could find dirt everywhere. Unfortunately, it gets uncovered, and hopefully this helped some of that culture where coaches might have been scared. I don't want to be the next Art Briles. So maybe that was a good thing, but I don't know. I feel like he's been made this and turned into such a pariah and an outcast, and he's just untouchable that I'm like, man, he's been out 6 years, and there's a lot of coaches on that staff. I mean, his son included, who have coached the entire time and never had to face anything. And you're telling me they didn't know anything? So I don't know. I just think there's this, he's been pinned as the face of this, and he's the head of the program. So I get it, but 6 years to me feels enough. The other thing too is from the Grambling State aspect, they went, all these splashy name hires are being made at the HBCU level, Dion and Eddie George and others. And then they go get Hugh Jackson, and why not just keep the splash hires going? It's another name and it's controversial, but he can coach offense, and, it's going to bring attention to you. Now it's unwanted attention at this time, but if he wins, you could you could be onto something, and maybe it works on the football field. And then everyone will be like, yeah, 6 years was enough. Let the man have a second chance. So somebody had to take that stop. Like you guys said, it probably wouldn't have been me. I don't know if I would have gone there, but Hugh Jackson's been out of the college game. I wonder if he's even aware, which is, I'm sure he is. He's been brought up to speed, but I'll be curious to see if this actually comes to fruition, because like a couple other times he was, attempted to be hired and the backlash was so severe that it didn't come there. It wasn't, he didn't get hired. And there's a lot going on in the world right now. And I wonder if Grambling, is thinking, hey, maybe it'll just kind of fly under the radar. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We'll have to see.